Right, good morning everybody and welcome back to Thai Talk with Dan. I've took my son to school this morning, I've got home, made a nice flask of coffee and I've come out here to the local lake again to deliver a story to all of you guys. And we've got a good one today. We've got a subscriber that wants to share his own Thailand horror story, in hope that you guys do not fall into the same trap as him. So, without further ado, let's jump in to today's Thailand story. Cheers. Hi Dan, I came across your channel months ago and dropped you a line. I said I would tell you my story at some point, so now I feel it is the time to tell you, and I hope it sheds light and helps other guys coming out, especially those intending coming to live here, to avoid making the same mistakes that I have made. Let's just call me M. Nothing to do with Bond, as not even Bond could have gotten out of this mess.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
I first started to come for regular holidays to Thailand, Pattaya, aged 50 and single after a divorce from years ago. I used to hear stories of how these Thai girls played the field, etc. with sponsors, and I always thought that it will never happen to me. After coming here for many holidays and enjoying the usual fruits men of our age and status can get here in Pattaya, I decided to take early retirement and come to live here in Pattaya, aged 50, in 2016. I had sold my house, got my lump sum pension payout and my pension from work too. Even though I had 12 years to wait for my state pension in the UK, I was financially okay and thought life here was great. Being single and with quite a few bob in my pocket, I always thought I am never getting conned here by these bar girls, etc. Or so I thought. A few months had passed and I had obviously enjoyed the pleasures of Pattaya, of what it had to offer. After about 1 year, I started going into a gentleman's club frequently in the evenings. I met what you could say was an older type woman in her 40s, but slim and very attractive. We got on really well and she said she was a cashier there. After a few months, she mentioned on an occasion she had no microwave at home. I told her I had a spare one as I had just moved into a rented condo and had an old one I had bought from my previous rented room. She seemed very appreciative and asked me if I could take her to her house that she rented the next day, which I agreed to do. When I arrived at her home, her house was spotlessly clean and very tidy. She invited me in for a cup of tea. We chatted nicely for about an hour and she invited me to stay for tea with her daughter in her house, but I declined as I thought that would be nice on another occasion. After the next few months, we saw each other a few evenings when she was not working in the club. We dined and drank wine in the evenings and I began to get nice feelings about her. Another few months had passed and we had been seeing each other. There was some bedroom action, I am not going to lie, but she never asked for any money and I never offered her any also. So one day she told me she did not like working in the bar as she was too old and that she loved cooking. She wanted to have a small restaurant so she could leave the bar and all that type of work. So after much thought and seeing her for over 7 months and that she had never asked me for any money, I decided to help her open a very small restaurant. Nothing flash, just 6 tables in a small rented building. Now, it ended up costing me 2 months key money. Don't know what key money is. 50,000 baht, and buying all the cutlery, plates and dishes, etc. Also, the food, beer to get it all started. It must have cost me over 275,000 to 300,000 baht. Now, she tried for a few months, but it was just not making any money. She said that if I paid the first 2 months' rent, she could pay the rest on her own out of profits she would make from the restaurant and be self-supported and independent of any further financial support from me. This was what I wanted, and it sounded great. However, this is Thailand, as you well know. After 5 months of her not making any profits at the restaurant and her keep asking me for 20,000 baht each month for rent for the place, which I paid to bail her out each time, I told her to close it down as I was just hemorrhaging money away every month with this business. So she closed it down and we continued to see each other, and she went back to selling street food and got a job serving school dinners. Her 17-year-old daughter went to live with her father in Bangkok. So she came to live with me in my rented condo, and all was good for 3 to 4 months. She was not asking me for any money and still selling her street food. After a few more months had passed, she had a friend who she introduced me to. She owned a restaurant. She was called Nam and was a local police special volunteer. She said she would give her a job as a partner in her restaurant kitchen if she could pay 20,000 baht. She, in return, would give her some of the profits from the food sold. And as you can guess, I thought, well, at least it's an up and running established business with a well-equipped kitchen, and she was a police volunteer. What could possibly go wrong? Again, it's Thailand. After 3 months of this arrangement, the pickings were still slim, and I had not even got back the cost of the initial 20,000 baht I had paid to this Nam to allow this deal to take place. One night after the kitchen had closed, the 3 of us sat talking, and I mentioned to Nam I would like to buy a house here. She said it would be a good idea as I was now retired and living in Thailand. She had a few friends down at the police station who partners knew of houses for sale and could get me a great deal. A few weeks passed and Nam come to me and said a colleague of hers from the police knew of a lady wanting to sell her house very quick as her husband had died, and she wanted to get rid of it so then she could move back up to the country near her family. So, as it was from her police colleague, I thought, well, this sounds good and sound. 3 days later, my girlfriend, let's call her Fa, and Nam, we went to view the house. It needed a lick of paint inside and out, but otherwise was a good property. 3 bedrooms and a good location too. She wanted 2.9 million baht, but I offered 2.5 million, which she accepted. proving the paperwork and deal could be done within 14 days. Again, as Nam was working for the police, even as a special, I felt safe in that everything was okay and above board. At this time, I told my friend I was going to buy it. He had lived here for many years, and he strongly advised me to put it in a company name for my security reasons. Now later, I would come to regret not taking his advice. I approached the legal company he recommended. They told me it would take at least about 23 days to set it all up with all legal paperwork in a company name, etc. I explained to the lady selling the house I wanted to put it in a company name and it would take this amount of time. She said if I could not do it within 14 days, she would not give me the 400,000 baht discount. I thought naively, well, if I buy it now, I put it in Far's name, then in a few months change it back over to a company name and I would save 400,000 baht. I discussed this with Far. After all, we had been together nearly 1 year and things had been fine, and she never asked me for any money or a monthly salary and did her low-paid jobs without any complaints whatsoever. Now I did have some reservations if I'm being honest, but as she was a friend of Nam's and who worked with the police, I decided to put it in her name, but made her promise me she would change it over to a company name in the next few months. I showed her an old cap I brought with me to Thailand. My dad wore when he was alive. She dropped to her knees and hugged it, broke down in tears, held it to her chest and promised me and swore to Buddha she would change it over back to me so I could put it in a company name. The house was purchased in her name on the title deed. 3 days after buying it, she said she had to go back to her village for a few weeks as she had something to sort out with her family.
I smell bullshit.
I thought to myself, okay, this would give me time to go into the house, strip it down and decorate it throughout. I spent the next 4 weeks working my nuts off in very hot temperatures outside, painting the house alone, inside and out. I was going in at 6 a.m. every morning and finishing at 8 p.m. at night. Tired, thirsty and exhausted, I wanted it to be a huge big surprise for her when she returned. I can honestly say I worked my tripe off. After finishing the decorating, I spent time furnishing it, etc. with nice curtains, bedding, cushions, etc. The place looked absolutely lovely, even though I say myself. The last few nights when I was working on the house, I noticed 3 Thai guys on a motorbike sitting for about 30 minutes just looking at the house. I thought, because I was doing the work myself, maybe they are from immigration, as I have a retirement visa only and I should not be doing work as it breaches the visa. On 2 occasions, as I locked the house up and left, they followed me for about 5 minutes but then peeled off. I thought no more about it and put it down that they could not be from immigration as they looked too scruffy. Far returned from her village and I took her to the house. I made her close her eyes as she entered the house. When she opened them, she burst into tears. She dropped to her knees, hugging my ankles. She said no man had ever done anything like this for her before in her life. A few more months passed and all was fine. I kept the title deed in a drawer next to my bed, so I knew she could not do anything behind my back in terms of borrowing money on the property, etc. I told her about the two men on motorbikes, but she just shrugged it off as nosy Thai people. After about 4 months and all was well, she found a job in a bar kitchen about 5 minutes ride away on a motorbike. She knew the lady from years ago. She went in at 8:30 in the morning and finished at 5 p.m. when another cook took over for the evening shift. The bar seemed respectable, but it did have 2 or 3 ladies working in there as bar girls. On the occasions I called in there, she was always working in the kitchen, as it was only around the corner, and she was back home every night for 5:15 p.m, and I thought no more of it. So one day I went to the drawer where the title deed was kept, as it was the same place as my passport. I noticed the title deed was not there. It had gone missing.
Shit, here we go again.
I called her and I asked her where it had gone. She said she had taken it into work to show her friend, the owner. I asked, why would you do that? She gave me some stupid story about something. I knew something was wrong and I smelt a fish, and a very big smelly fish. I jumped on the bike and went round to the bar kitchen where she worked. But in the space of 5 minutes, she had gone. I was furious and shaking with anger. I called her numerous times, but her phone was turned off. For the next 5 days, I could not make any contact with her. Then, out of the blue, she called me. She said she was back home from her village and she wanted to come back and she would explain everything to me. So I told her to return immediately, and I want the truth on her return. 2 days later, she returned. She told me she had huge debts and loans, and the guys on the motorbike were mafia guys looking for her. I asked her how much she owed. She said 100,000 baht. I said, if we pay this off, is that it? She said yes. So we ended up meeting those 2 guys on the motorbike up some dark country lane at night. I handed over the money and they gave her some paperwork back, ID card, etc. Now, it was all coming back to haunt me. My friend's sound advice that I had ignored about putting it in a company name, etc. I never told him, and never told him to this day. I know he would just torture me every day and go over and over it. She told me on returning behind my back she had borrowed money on the house. That's why the title deed had gone. I said, I have just handed over 100,000 baht to those 2 guys. You said that was it. How could this happen to me? I always told myself I would never be that stupid, but somehow I let my guard down and left myself in a now very precarious position financially. She told me there was a bigger loan now. She owed only 1 hour after paying those guys off. She had borrowed the money on my house, so her and her friend at the bar could become some sort of loan sharks to other people. She said she could make 6,000 to 7,000 baht per day and could make money to pay her debt off and get the title deed back in 1 year. I was totally devastated. She had me by the balls, and it was all my own doing in a way. I should have listened to my friend's advice and never to treat these Thai women as if they have some sort of Western integrity. Not much I could do. Title deed gone. I told her if you're getting 7,000 baht a day, you have to give 4,000 baht every day. She agreed. So, for the next 11 months, every day she gave me 4,000 baht, which I hid away in a very safe place. I thought, well, at least I am getting something back daily until we get the title deed back. I went to see that Nam and told her what she had done, only to find out that she had been sacked by the police for financial fraud. When I did catch up with her, I gave her a piece of my mind. She told me she knew Fa had huge debts before we bought the house, but chose not to tell me. She also told those mafia guys where the house was, so that's why they appeared there looking for Fa. I also assumed because she got commission on the sale of the house, as she found me as a buyer. She never said anything to me about Fa's huge debts. After a further few months, Fa's and my relationship was frosty, to say the least. But she was still giving me 4,000 baht a day. Then one night we had a huge argument. I threw all her clothes out into the street. The next day she came to me and said she was so sorry for what she had done with the title deed. She also said she had lost face in the village where we lived. There was 7 months to go before she got the deed back from the mafia loan people. So if she paid rent on another house, we could live there for 6 months and rent my house out for 7 months at 15,000 baht per month. I was not happy about any of this, but all I could see is clawing back as much cash as I could with the 4,000 baht a day and 15,000 baht monthly rent. She was going to pay rent in our new place to stay, which she never did. Always an excuse every month, as she was saving up to get the title deed back. Very reluctantly, I agreed. She knew a friend who wanted to rent out my house. They paid 2 months' rent up front and 15,000 baht for the next 7 months. I was just hoping those 7 months to pass and I could get the title deed back. After 2 months, Fa came to me and told me that the lady, her friend, the house was rented to, wanted to buy it and was fully aware of the situation with the title deed, etc. She was going to pay 2.6 million baht for it.
A bullshit? A bullshit? A bullshit? A bullshit?
I was very sceptical. I even drove to the house to ask the renting tenant if this is true. Nobody answered the door, but the lights were on and I could hear the TV on inside. I went back on several occasions, but it was the same. No answer, but music on and the TV with a car on the driveway. It was obviously not empty. There was 2 months to go before the title deed was to be returned and the sale of my house to go ahead. I needed to go back to the UK. Fa said she wanted to come with me and meet my family. I thought, well, if she wants to do that, she isn't going to pull last-minute stunts with this house and title deed and loan business. So, we went to the UK for 3 weeks and my family and friends treated her really well and kindly. I never told them what she had done behind my back with the house. I just hoped the house would be sold next month when we returned to Thailand, and all this would be behind me and never to be repeated. I took her to my father's bungalow I had sold when he died. We stood outside at the end of the driveway. I told her my father worked all his life to buy this house and the money from the sale he had left to me. This very money that bought the house in Thailand that she'd taken a loan out on with the mafia and played with money my father had worked hard for. She immediately dropped to her knees on a wet pavement, holding her hands in praying position, crying, saying she promises my father she will return the title deed and all the money to me when we get back. So, we returned to Thailand 1 week later, and the time was fast approaching for the title deed to be returned. One day, she said she was going to go and get the deed, as she had all the money ready to pay the mafia. I asked her to show me the money, but she said her friend had it, as we had been away in the UK. She went out at about 10 a.m. the following morning to go sort it all out. She never returned. I tried calling her, but her phone was off. I went to her friend's bar where she worked, but she had disappeared 2 weeks ago and nobody knew where she had gone either. I went to the old house where her friend was renting it. A lady answered the door this time. I explained the situation, and this lady told me she had bought the house 5 months ago from a Thai lady. I showed her Far's photo. She said she had never seen her before and bought the house off an older Thai lady. A man also came to the door, a Swedish man, and confirmed the lady's story and showed me the title deed, now in his name. I also noticed at the gate of the house was a name of a company, so it must have been put in a company name on the sale, and a small swimming pool had been built in the front garden along with some other alterations. Now, the final nail in the coffin was she sold it at a profit at 2.7 million baht, after all my hard work had gone into it too. To this day, I have never ever seen her again, and I have to say, Dan, I lost the lot. So all that praying in front of my dad's house was a total act, because when she did that and met all my family and sat next to me on that aeroplane for 17 hours there and 17 back to the UK, she knew and she had already sold it. I only hope other guys may consider this when buying a property here in Thailand, and this is why I wanted to share my story. Do not trust these Thai women. They are Olympic champion liars. I feel embarrassed to some degree looking back now, but we live and we learn. Now, the 4,000 baht daily she was giving me, I can only assume was money from the mafia loan, but at least I got something. I am leaving the rest up to Lady Karma. She may come late to the party, but she never fails to show up. I hope she pays her a visit one day wherever she goes or wherever she got to. Best wishes and keep up with your great channel, Dan. Kind regards, M. Wow guys, what a story. Absolutely bonkers, and I feel very, very sorry for this subscriber. When you get into a relationship with a woman, she's not asking for any money. She seems to be kind and nice and a good woman, but there was a plan always in play, and that plan was to milk this foreigner's money, pay her debts, and also gain something financially for herself. Now guys, I will say, obviously not all Thai women are like this. Of course they are not. This guy just got very, very, very unlucky. And yeah, he admits himself, he shouldn't have put so much trust into this woman, and he should have followed his friend's advice by putting it into a company name. Now you have to understand guys that this is quite embarrassing for this subscriber to share this story, but he's doing so not in bitterness. He seems to be doing it to warn other people to not make the same mistake as himself, because it was a very, very costly mistake, and he won't be able to get that money back unless there may be a decent lawyer here in Thailand that could possibly help him, as I don't personally know the legalities of this situation and if there's anything he can do about it. But if there is, please give your details down below in the comment section, and I will pass it over to this subscriber, and hopefully somebody out there can help him. Guys, as I always say, take things extremely slowly and get to know your new Thai girlfriend as best as you can, and never ever invest heavily with your money into anything into someone else's name, as it's way too dangerous. Always stay cautious and don't put your trust into someone that you've not known very long. So anyway guys, put your comments and your thoughts down below, and let this subscriber know what you think. If you've got any advice, etc., put it down below please. And if you've got your own true Thailand story that you want to share and you feel that it might help other guys out there, then please feel free to send an email into thaitalkwithdan@gmail.com. Oh, guys, I don't know what to say right now. I feel very, very, very sorry for this guy. I know some guys will say that he's stupid and he brought it upon himself, but he thought he'd found a good woman and he put that trust into her when she's dropping down to her knees and telling him that, you know, that he can trust her, etc. And they're so believable, and you really think that, yeah, I can, but you don't realize the debts and the problems that this woman has, where she'll say and do anything to fix her situation. It's not nice, guys. So hopefully this will stop others from doing something similar. Hopefully. That's all we can literally hope for with this story. Apart from that, guys, it's Friday. I hope everybody has a fantastic and amazing weekend. Stay safe out there and keep your money in your pocket, especially the money that you've saved or you've had given to you. You know, that money can go a long way for your own life and your own happiness, and when you get to a certain age, there's no way of getting that money back, so use it wisely. Take care, guys. Best of luck out there, and ciao for now. Bye bye.